Hello everyone, and welcome back to another frog log about my frog-based RPG. My plan for this episode was to get a prestige system working where you can upgrade your weapon. This would obviously boost the stat of the weapon, and it would change the appearance of it. I can say I did not finish that at all. I went through a rabbit hole of things that I felt I needed to flesh out before getting to the finished product. This included having the ability to select different pop-up options at, say, the Forge. I thought about how Genshin does their interactions and pickup items, and I thought it would fit well, so I went ahead and tried replicating it. Now this took about 7 days to implement in total, and the main issue was dealing with linking the objects in-game to the list of items in the UI, and another list of active elements in another script. I will give you a little breakdown of how things were being handled before the change. Every item in the scene had a hotspot attached to them, and when a player entered the hotspot, I would tell it to basically say the name of the item above it. And if the player interacts with that item while in the hotspot, it would run a trigger that removes the item from the scene and adds itself to the player's inventory. Now something to take note of is that when a player enters more than one hotspot, it will display the text of multiple hotspots, like it should, but when the player interacts, it will take a random item from the active hotspots and run that trigger. This becomes quite an issue when you're trying to select a specific item to remove. First thing to do was to create my own script for the logic behind entering a hotspot of an item. This consists of being able to add a list of pop-up items that consists of a sprite and text before runtime, and at runtime to be able to create a UI item. I later realized that I would need an ID attached to the item in the scene and have it get passed to all instances where I would need to reference it. I then made it able to show/hide the corresponding UI item based on the hotspot active. Here is where the issues became apparent. As you can see, I can scroll through the list just fine, but when I try to grab that specific item in the list, a random game object gets picked up, causing the entire thing to break. Fixing this issue took a lot of time. Something that seems pretty simple had some complex solutions. I had finally gotten it to work without throwing some errors. Just some UI problems were happening, which took no time to fix. This was a huge relief. There was just one more thing, and that I was only working on single item pickups, but I hadn't added the ability to choose between two options on the same game object. The way I went about this was having two triggers on the game object, and calling the trigger through code corresponding to the option chosen. After this, I needed a UI to deal with the prestiging, so I decided to create some mockups. At first, I was thinking about having a UI that uses the full screen, but I decided against that as I had a vision of using the camera to pan and pose for the UI. I can't really show you what I had in mind, but try to picture talking to a frog about prestiging your weapon, and they will be behind the counter, maybe resting their head on their hand waiting for you to decide, and that frame will go above the item list you see on the left. This way it makes it feel a little more immersive. I haven't really decided on a final design, but I was happy enough with what I had. At the same time, I finally decided to change that atrocious UI that I made a while back. Here's the different iterations I had for the HUD. It isn't perfect, but definitely better than what I had. The biggest conflict I have is how to display the dashes/dash cooldowns. I have a feeling I will have to change it later when I get a better understanding of how the dashing and other things planned feel with the UI. With the mockups done, I headed into Unity and decided to change around the HUD UI to match the mockup, and I think it looks much better. The dash bar doesn't work with the dashing yet, but no need to make it functional right now. I then went ahead to start making the Prestige UI, and this took way longer than expected. Using an asset pack like Game Creator is a blessing and a curse. You can say sort of a double-edged sword. It saves so much time when laying out the groundwork and getting something going in your game, but customizing parts of it to fit what you want takes a long time. I have to go in and create new code that has to work and abide to the classes and structure of the asset pack. I've gotten the UI to mostly work. I need to add logic for dealing with the prestiged weapon based on the original weapon, as well as fixing the ingredients needed to prestige. This was a ride, but the next video will definitely be showing off the full prestige system, as well as a new custom sword with different models linked to the prestige level. I hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you guys in the next one. See ya!